The blizzard howled across the Alaskan wilderness with merciless fury. James Carter trudged through knee-deep snow, his thermal gear doing little against the bone-chilling wind. He had come to his remote cabin seeking solitude after years of military service, but the storm had caught him during his supply run. As he pushed forward, squinting through the white curtain of snow, he spotted something impossible. Two figures lay huddled against a fallen tree, their bodies trembling violently. James quickened his pace, his heart pounding. As he drew closer, his breath caught in his throat. These were not human beings. The two women possessed skin that shimmered with a faint blue luminescence, even beneath the coating of ice and snow. Their features were delicate, yet distinctly alien, with large eyes that held an almost crystalline quality. They wore thin, metallic garments completely inadequate for the freezing temperatures. One appeared slightly older, perhaps in her mid-20s by human standards, while the other seemed barely out of her teens. Without hesitation, James stripped off his heavy coat and wrapped it around the younger one. He pulled off his thermal blanket from his pack and covered the older sister. Both women looked at him with wide, frightened eyes that held a glimmer of desperate hope. "I've got you," he said firmly, though he doubted they understood. "You're going to be okay." The cabin was only half a mile away, but carrying both women through the storm tested every ounce of his strength. The older one, whom he would later learn was named Lyra, tried to walk but collapsed after a few steps. Her younger sister, Nira, had already lost consciousness. James hoisted Nira onto his back and half-carried, half-dragged Lyra beside him. By the time he kicked open his cabin door, his muscles screamed in protest. He laid both women near the fireplace and frantically built up the fire until flames roared with life. Their skin, he noticed with growing concern, had turned from blue to an alarming shade of purple. James worked quickly, drawing on his combat medic training. He wrapped them in every blanket he owned, placed heated water bottles around their bodies, and monitored their vital signs as best he could. Their physiology was different, but the signs of severe hypothermia were universal. Hours passed. The storm raged outside, while James maintained his vigil, adding wood to the fire and checking on his unexpected guests. As dawn broke, Lyra's eyes fluttered open. She stared at him for a long moment before speaking in perfect, though accented English. "You saved us." James nearly dropped his coffee mug. "You speak English?" "Our ship's neural interface downloaded your language before we crashed," Lyra explained weakly. "I am Lyra. This is my sister Nira. We are from Velan Prime, in what you would call the Andromeda Galaxy." Over the next few days, as both sisters recovered their strength, their story emerged. They had been on a research vessel studying Earth's climate patterns when a catastrophic malfunction had forced them to abandon ship. Their escape pod had crashed in the wilderness, and they had wandered for hours before collapsing. "Our people will search for us," Lyra said, "but the storm damaged our beacon. It could be weeks before they locate our signal." James nodded. "Then you'll stay here. I've got supplies, and the cabin's isolated enough that we won't attract attention." What began as simple survival evolved into something unexpected. The sisters, once they regained their health, proved to be curious and helpful. Nira, with her background in xenobiology, was fascinated by Earth's ecosystem. She would spend hours examining plants James brought in, asking endless questions with infectious enthusiasm. Lyra, more reserved and analytical, helped improve the cabin's efficiency. She jury-rigged parts from their damaged equipment to enhance the heating system and water purification. Her intelligence was matched only by her quiet determination. James found himself drawn to both women in different ways. Nira's youthful energy and wonder reminded him of the joy he had lost during his years of service. Lyra's strength and competence spoke to something deeper, a recognition of a kindred spirit who had also known hardship. One evening, as they sat around the fire, Nira suddenly declared, "James, I wish to bond with you." James choked on his drink. "What?" Lyra's luminescent skin darkened in what James had learned was their equivalent of a blush. "Nira, you cannot just—" "Why not?" Nira interrupted. "He saved our lives. He is kind, strong, and honorable. By our customs, such a debt creates a bond. I have observed him for weeks now. I find him worthy." James looked between the two sisters, completely out of his depth. "I'm flattered, but I'm not sure you understand human customs." "I understand perfectly," Nira said firmly. "I have studied your cultural databases. On your world, when two beings feel affection and compatibility, they may choose to bond permanently. This is what I wish." Lyra stood abruptly. "Forgive my sister's impulsiveness. She speaks without thinking." But as Lyra moved toward the window, staring out at the snow-covered landscape, she added softly, "Though her feelings are not hers alone." The confession hung in the air like a held breath. James rose and approached Lyra carefully. "What are you saying?" She turned, her crystalline eyes meeting his. "Among my people, it is not uncommon for sisters to share a bondmate when circumstances warrant it. We have both come to care for you, James Carter. You have shown us that humanity possesses a nobility we had only theorized about. You asked nothing in return for saving us. You treated us with respect and kindness. These are rare qualities in any species." "On Velen Prime," Nira added, moving to stand beside her sister, "bonds are not formed lightly. But when they are formed, they are eternal. We do not expect you to understand our ways or to accept immediately. We only ask that you consider it." James ran his hand through his hair, his mind racing. He had spent years alone, convinced that his life of service had left him too damaged for normal relationships. Yet here were two extraordinary beings offering him something he had never imagined. "I need time," he said finally. "This is all very sudden." The sisters nodded in unison. "We understand," Lyra said. Over the following weeks, James found himself observing the sisters with new eyes. He noticed how Lyra would leave his favorite coffee prepared exactly how he liked it every morning. How Nira would sit close to him during their evening discussions about Earth's history, her enthusiasm making even mundane topics seem fascinating. He saw how they worked together seamlessly, anticipating each other's needs and thoughts. Were a unit, yet each possessed her own distinct personality and strengths. The idea of accepting both of them had seemed absurd at first, but the more he considered it, the more sense it made. One night, after a particularly vivid nightmare about his past, James woke to find both sisters sitting beside his bed. They said nothing, simply offering their presence as comfort. It was Lyra who gently placed her hand on his shoulder, her touch cool and soothing. Nira brought him water and sat at the foot of his bed, her concerned eyes never leaving his face. "You carry pain," Lyra observed quietly. "We see it in your eyes sometimes." James nodded slowly. "War leaves scars. Some you can see, others you cannot. Then let us help heal them," Nira said simply. "Just as you healed us." In that moment, sitting in the darkness with these two remarkable beings who had crash-landed into his life, James realized something profound. He had been searching for peace in isolation, but perhaps peace was meant to be shared. "Tell me about the bonding ceremony," he said. Both sisters' faces lit up with bioluminescent joy. Lyra explained the ritual of their people, a simple but profound ceremony where intentions were declared and promises made. There were no priests or officials, only the willing hearts of those involved. "It requires only honesty and commitment," Lyra said. "We would pledge to stand beside you through all circumstances, to share in your joys and shoulder your burdens. And you would do the same for us." "And what happens when your people come?" James asked. "Will you return to your world?" The sisters exchanged glances. "We have discussed this," Nira said. "If you accept us, we would ask permission to remain on Earth. Our research was meant to last years anyway. We can continue it here with you. And if Earth becomes dangerous for you," James pressed. "Then you could come with us," Lyra replied. "Our world would welcome the man who saved 2 of its daughters. But these are questions for the future. Now, we ask only if you will consider joining your life with ours." James looked at them both, these incredible women who had chosen him out of all the universe's possibilities. He thought about the emptiness that had defined his life before they arrived, and the warmth and purpose they had brought to his isolated existence. "Yes," he said simply, "I accept." The bonding ceremony took place 3 nights later, under a sky brilliant with aurora borealis. The sisters had insisted the northern lights were a good omen, a blessing from the cosmos itself. They stood together in the snow outside the cabin, hands joined, and spoke their promises. James pledged to protect and cherish them both, to honor their bond and their individual spirits. Lyra and Nira each spoke their own vows, their voices harmonizing in a way that seemed to resonate with something fundamental in the universe. As they sealed their bond with a traditional villain gesture, pressing foreheads together while their hands remained joined, James felt something shift within him. The loneliness that had haunted him for years simply dissolved, replaced by a profound sense of bellow.